Good afternoon, 49er faithful. It is game day, week 18, and we are here. The 49ers are fighting for their playoff chances this afternoon against the Los Angeles Rams. I am thrilled to be joined by Aaron from 49ers First Takes. We are going to be breaking it down up until kickoff. We got a few topics to get through. We want all of you to be involved in the chat. But most importantly, Aaron, how are you doing today? You excited for this matchup against LA?
Yeah, I'm excited. I'm nervous. Usually I don't do pre-games because I'm so messed up mentally
Yeah.
from getting ready to emotionally get ready for what I'm going to watch. And so this is like breaking my usual habit. So who knows? Maybe it'll turn out to be a positive thing and I'll do it more often.
Yeah, I'm telling you, you're not the only one that's stressed out. I mean, I'm looking at the comments, scrolling in, and they are overwhelmingly negative or worrisome. Everett coming in, Ev talking to me at Rob Schuh with all the news. We need your good vibes more than ever. Can they still pull it off? I predict a monster game from Debo today. We will need significant contributions from many players today. And part of the reason for that is our first topic here, the key inactives for the San Francisco 49ers. A few minutes ago, the inactive list came out. A bit of a surprise. Both K'Wan Williams and K'Wan and Trent Williams are going to be out for this one. That is brutal. I was not expecting the Trent Williams news. I thought that for sure he would give it a go. You know, it's the lingering elbow issue that he was dealing with. I'm not sure exactly what the elbow issue was, but he didn't practice all week. However, Kyle Shanahan seemed optimistic that he was going to play. And then K'Wan Williams, coming off of the COVID list, apparently wasn't feeling well enough today to go. That's the starting nickelback position. Both of those are huge losses, Aaron.
Yeah, especially Trent going against that pass rush. You want to have all your best five offensive linemen, and you want to have your five best offensive linemen in your run game too, because that's something that you do so well. So yeah, that's a tough one. I saw the play last week. I was watching the game when he hurt his elbow, and I saw him kind of dangling it, and I'm like, oh. And it was like right towards the end. I think we were winning at that point pretty handily, and I'm like, you got to be kidding me, dude. Didn't think it was going to be something that lingered, but once I saw the injuries reports this week and I saw that he wasn't practicing, I'm like, ooh, that might be a problem. So
yeah,
I'm shocked, but I'm not surprised, if that makes any sense. Like, I'm shocked that he wouldn't try to gut it out, but not surprised because it looked like he hurt himself pretty badly last week. And as far as K'Wan, man, I mean, as far as him having COVID, I have no issue. Like, I'm not mad. Like, oh, how dare you? Like, that's real deal stuff. But man, this wide receiving core, you need all your best defensive backs. So it's definitely going to be something that the Rams are probably going to try to target now, if they're smart.
Yeah, you would think so. I mean, you have Diamador Lenore didn't clear the COVID protocol. Nope. And so you're looking at a most likely scenario where you're down to your third string nickel cornerback, Dante Johnson, filling in there. Jimmy Ward, thankfully, is active for today. You could see him filling in significant snaps at the nickel position as well. In particular, anytime Cooper Kupp is lined up there in the slot, you would think Jimmy might come down to the nickel. I have to agree with Peter Lee here saying at Rob Schuh, the inactive list does not determine the outcome of the game. Embrace the adversity and let our players step up. Let's go. That's the type of positivity that we need, Peter. That is the type of energy that the 49ers will have to bring onto the field. And Jalen Moore, filling in at left tackle, has had some good snaps this season. And today is his 24th birthday. So if the man is going to fill in at left tackle and have a good game, why not on his birthday, right? It sets up pretty well for it to be a miracle by Jalen Moore here. And then you would expect, again, that you'll have some mixture covering the nickel spot there. And don't forget that we are all default Falcons fans today, because regardless of what happens in the Niners game, where we're obviously pulling for a win, if the Falcons win, the Niners retain that 6th seed. Because of the Eagles' loss last night, as long as the Niners get in there, I believe it works out to where they have that 6th seed locked down. It's either 6th or out at the end of today. Very exciting stuff.
Yeah, I'm definitely, I'm not one of those people that's against us getting in on a technicality. If that's how we get in, whatever. Once you're in, and then anything can happen once you get in the playoffs, especially with this way the seeding is now, where it's only like one top team and everybody else is pretty much beating up on each other. So, I would like for us to take care of business ourselves. That would just alleviate all the worry.
Yeah, that would feel so much better.
I'm definitely going to be watching that Saints Falcons. I'll have it, constantly looking at it on the DirecTV to make sure, just in case.
Yes.
I won't be so stressed out, because if we're behind in both, man, I'm going to be hurting.
Yeah,
insides are going to be hurting.
49ers Twitter today, I'm sure, will vacillate between elation and end of the world scenarios. I mean, it will be the extremes today because of the very polarizing decision to what it looks like start Jimmy Garoppolo in this one. The absence of a couple of key players, the hatred of the Rams, the ownership of the Rams, like all of these things come into play to set up a very intense day of football, especially for the 49er faithful. Eric, I think bringing this in is saying something that I know a lot of faithful are thinking. This is not smart. Trent is out and Jimmy has a bad record when hurt. Why are they starting Jimmy and not Trey? Well, that leads us right into our next topic here. And I saw a super chat just come in, so we'll hit that in just a moment. But in leading off this topic, I think it is important to realize that while Jimmy is, I would acknowledge, less than 100%, and you have the rookie at 100%. People are saying, well, you have a mobile quarterback. He should be playing, especially if you have your left tackle out. I do want to point out, as we get into this topic, that you're actually looking at one of the quicker releases in the NFL at 2.3 seconds for Jimmy Garoppolo. So there is increased importance in his ability to get the ball out quickly while still executing a significant portion of the playbook. And I think that's what's on Kyle Shanahan's mind in starting Jimmy Garoppolo, is getting the ball out quickly, hitting the reads over the middle of the field, taking advantage of that Rams defense that is soft at linebacker, not great at safety. Jimmy, with his yak dominance, tends to set up nicely against the Rams in that regard.
Yeah, I was listening a little bit to the KNBR pregame with Larry Krueger and Dennis Brown and all them. They were talking about how, Trey would be great with his mobility and all that stuff, but the way how the rush of the Rams is really prolific, and they have a lot of quarterback sacks, and Trey sees things slowly, and it actually would play more into the Rams' hands if Trey was back there. And the fact that Jimmy gets the ball out quick, and the rating, I forget what it's called, the DVOA or DV, whatever that stat is, when it comes to getting allowing plays over the middle, the Rams defense is ranked pretty bad. So you're kind of, unfortunately, or fortunately, the way, depends on how you look at it. I see why Jimmy, one, he's experienced, he's been through all this before. You want your most experienced players in your biggest games, but at the same time, also his game and his ability to get the ball quick kind of fits in with the weaknesses and the strengths of the Rams. So it just all works together. So I understand if indeed he is the starter. I understand why. I'm not as bummed that Trey's not playing as people would assume, especially someone like Luke Luna, who knows that I'm a Trey guy. But I actually agree with Luke that I think Jimmy in this particular situation gives us the best chance to win, hopefully.
Well, in just trying to verify something that I saw in the comments about potentially Jalen Moore not starting at left tackle and it being someone else, I couldn't confirm that on Twitter, so I'm not sure about that news. But I did see that Jimmy Garoppolo led the 49ers out of the tunnel. And I think that there will need to be the team rising up behind him today. So he does need to be the hood ornament, right? The guy that's out there signifying, well, he's gutting it out. He's got the thumb injury. He's our leader. He's gotten us to this point. As mixed as this season has been, he's going to be the champion going forward, win, lose, or draw. By the way, a draw would help the 49ers. A tie would be just as good as a win. But it'll be interesting to see how that plays out. Got a couple of super chats I'm going to bring in here. William Bennett, no Trent, worried about the pass rush. Again, I do think that goes back to what Aaron was just talking about, that even though Trey Lance can extend the plays, it's Jimmy Garoppolo who can get the ball out quickly, on target, and on time to the intended receiver, and not the type of schoolyard play where it is break and contain and extending the play down the field. Those types of things could be critical for the 49ers if in any way they fall behind, or Jimmy Garoppolo is clearly, not himself today. But if Jimmy can be his usual self of attacking over the middle, it sets up pretty nicely for that quick release to get it out before that vaunted pass rush gets home for the Rams.
Yeah,
Bring it in.
Go ahead. Sorry.
No, go ahead. Touch on that one.
I was saying the run game itself is the most important part of this, even though, it all works together. I think Jimmy's at his best when he throws off of play action. It just makes it's easier reads for him. He's more decisive, it seems like, especially when the running game's working. So that's another reason. He just sees it faster. I'm not saying he's more talented physically or, anything else, other than I just think his experience lends itself to a game that everything's on the line.
Amen to that. Jacob Mayhew coming in, worried about Jimmy. I think you're not alone there, Jacob. Warmed up for 5 minutes, then stopped. Trey's been throwing for 20 minutes, though. Wanted to show my support. Love the shows, Rob. Trey area. Appreciate it, Jacob. I had read that on Twitter. I would think that that's load management, that they just want to get Jimmy literally warmed up and then stop. With Trey, you can continue that process. He's not worried about aggravating any ligaments in his fingers. I think for Jimmy, that's a smart move, right? You want him to be at as close to 100% as he can be for as long as possible. And I would think limiting warmups would help that. But it also could be a sign of putting Trey Lance in this game at some point. You could see Trey Lance coming in, whether it is because of failings by Jimmy Garoppolo or just to create some shot plays. Let me ask you this, Aaron. Do you see it as a long or short leash for Jimmy Garoppolo in this one?
I think it's a short leash. If he's struggling to grip the ball or throw the ball accurately, just makes one of his, known miscues over the middle or something, and they're down quickly. I could see Kyle, doing whatever he needs to do to get this game, a victory and putting the kid in the game. Hopefully that's not the case. Hopefully the Niners can come out and maybe start fast and we won't have to worry about that. But yeah, I don't see Kyle having any patience for Jimmy making any mistakes. And it's based more to me with Jimmy on his health.
Right.
If he just looks like he's having some problems or the ball's just coming out weird, I wouldn't waste any time, pulling him.
Yeah, you would think that would be an obvious time to switch if he's not himself. If it's clear that there are physical limitations getting in the way of him being effective in this game, you would think that they would pull the trigger quickly because it is that important of a game. Sean951 agreeing that Trey should be in regardless. At Rob Schuh, bring in Trey for third and long situations. If the pass rush pins its ears back, the threat of run should help change their game plan and run threat. I have to agree that Trey being out there adds stress to the defense. It certainly causes them to play the offense in a different way. It becomes 11-on-11 football, and you can get those long runs against the pass rush if they're not disciplined. If they break contain, Trey Lance could abuse them in that right. But that's only if he's on the field, and that's only if Kyle Shanahan works him in for plays, even if it's not to take over for Jimmy, just to come in and contribute and threaten the defense and keep them honest.
I don't know if I'd feel comfortable with that, though, honestly, personally, going back and forth.
Yeah.
Not
I don't
saying
blame
that's it. Just this game is so important, and especially if the Niners are moving the ball effectively, and then all of a sudden you put Trey in the game and it's a negative play. I understand, early in the year, I didn't understand why Kyle wouldn't work Trey into the games. I was always like, what is your issue? Like, what is your hatred or your your mistrust? And it really comes down to I think it's just when you're in a groove and you're moving the ball and you're in the zone, doing something like that might just throw things off. So I mean, I would totally be okay if Trey came in and did something miraculous, but I rather see if one guy plays, I want to see him through the whole game. I just think it kind of throws things into a funk, but that's my opinion. That's not, fact.
No, I hear you on that. It definitely does disrupt the flow of the offense if things don't go according to plan, right? If he comes in and adds that chunk play and you get the completion, great. You've just created this excitement and stressed the defense. But if you're on schedule, down in distance, and then you take Jimmy out, put Trey in, and he gets an incompletion, this is the type of offense for the 49ers that has struggled to overcome being behind and down in distance. So I agree that if it doesn't go well, that's actually a real problem to throw off your rhythm by bringing in and out the two quarterbacks. I like Sean's suggestion here. Mine would actually be different. I would bring him in on the second and short in between the 40s, right? Where you can bring him in, have the shot play, the same end result of going deep, of attacking the defense. But if you have an incompletion, it still becomes a third and manageable situation where you're not completely out of it. It's not a crippling instance. William Bennett comes in just to cheer on the 49ers and the Falcons. It is key to point out that Kyle Pitts is active today. He is going for that rookie tight end record, overtaking Mike Ditka. And just to throw out there, Mike Ditka did get it accomplished in 14 games, not 17. So shout out to Ditka. But he is going for that record nonetheless. All of these records that get broken, they won't really have an asterisk in them, just like the records that were broken when it went from 14 to 16 games don't have asterisks in front of them either.
I have that Saturday Night Live skit where they're like, who wins? Ditka versus Tornado. Ditka. Anytime I hear that, I think of that skit with all the guys that did it.
Yeah, Saturday Night Live Ditka skits were some of the best. Chris Farley,
yes,
with what he would eat and the multiple heart attacks was just priceless. I mean, could not laugh hard enough at those. All right, bringing in William Bennett again. We are all Niners. Let's support whoever starts. That, to me, is the attitude going in. Whether you were a Jimmy guy or a Trey guy coming into this, you now know Jimmy is starting. If you're Niner faithful, you get behind Jimmy because he is our chance to make it into the playoffs. You can still hope that Trey Lance comes into this game and that he contributes and earns a role going forward. But to me, it is obvious. You got to get behind Jimmy Garoppolo, wouldn't you say?
Oh, if Jimmy's there, you got to give him his 100% support. Fans, teammates, everybody. It's weird. I'm oddly comfortable with him in this game for some reason. I know people who know me through the course of the season and other seasons. You know how difficult I am on Jimmy and how impatient. But just with this game being the importance of it being what it is, I just think I think you just got to go with the people that give you the best chance.
Yes.
And if Jimmy is 80%, can get it done, and it can do all the things that he usually does, which is facilitate to the playmakers. To me, Jimmy's like a point guard. He doesn't have a big arm. He doesn't have the ability to stretch the field, but when he's on point and when he's accurate, he's a facilitator. He is your John Stockton.
Yeah.
And Karl Malone and all those other guys are all the players we have on offense. So if Jimmy comes out and plays that kind of way, even if he's 80%, I'll take that. I love Trey. I love what Trey brings, but I just feel like if you got to have a game, you got to go with the guys that have been there before and go with the experience.
I love that analogy. I think it's very apt and fitting to describe Jimmy Garoppolo. And I think that will be the key to this game is those players around him, as you describe it, stepping up. The Karl Malones and Deebo Samuels of this offense have to absolutely bring it. Because I would anticipate, because of the Trent Williams news, Kyle Juszczyk and George Kittle will be in on max protection more often than not. I'm going to guess that they're used in pass blocking far more than you would have expected prior to that Trent Williams news. Big Dez coming in. I love my Niners, but I'm scared for Jimmy and Trey. Kyle Shanahan has done these guys no favors. I hope Kyle Shanahan has a game plan to get us a victory. Well, if there is one thing that Kyle Shanahan seems capable of doing, it is designing a game plan to get a victory against the Los Angeles Rams. So I think that will be his plan coming into this one, that he has a game plan that he believes will mop up this Rams team, and that he believes Jimmy Garoppolo is the best option to execute that game plan.
Yeah, and I just think at this point in the season, it comes down to the players. The players are the ones that gotta do their job. We always put so much on Kyle and his offense and his play calling, but a lot of times in these games where we make mistakes or we fall behind, a lot of the mistakes are self-inflicted.
Yes.
Whether it's holding penalties at the wrong time, defensive pass interferences at the wrong time, turnovers on, kickoff returns and stuff. What does Kyle have to do with any of that? It's the players making plays when they're in position to make plays. And at this point, I think with Kyle, Kyle calls even if he calls like a halfway decent game plan, I think the Niners have a chance to win. But it all comes down to all the players. Everybody has to step up. Don't commit any stupid turnovers. When we're driving on a field and we have a drive that's making headway and we look like we're doing good, don't commit a holding penalty, because this team is very easily unraveled on penalties and stuff. I notice they get easily taken out of their game. So I put this more on the players and the onus on the players to step up and do their job. And yes, Kyle is important to it, but I think at this time in the year, just do your job.
Do your job. Trust the man next to you to do his job as well. Max coming in. Go Niners. Still don't trust Jimmy 100%. Max, you are not alone there. There are many Niner faithful who feel that same way. But regardless of whether you trust him or not, he is going to be starting, and therefore the importance of the run game, our next topic, is paramount. The 49ers, especially with the news that Trent Williams is going to be out, with that pass rush of the Los Angeles Rams that is tops in the league at getting after the quarterback, you would anticipate that the 49ers will lean heavily on that run game. We have a fairly healthy stable of running backs at this point, with Elijah Mitchell now back in the rotation. Jeff Wilson Jr. appears to have knocked off the rust from his injury earlier on in the preseason. Deebo Samuel has been somewhat stymied as of late, but continues to be effective. And you have Trey Lance as the emergency quarterback to bring in for any type of a trick play that you want to run in that regard. Do you anticipate that the 49ers will stick to that run-first identity today, or do you predict it's going to be one of those odd Kyle Shanahan flips where he attacks the defense aggressively when it seems like the obvious choice would be the run game?
It's a good question. My personal preference would be to establish the run and be dominant with it.
Yes.
Because it's what we do best. We are a run-first team. Don't get it twisted. This is not a pass-first offense. Never has been under Kyle. But yeah, Kyle sometimes does that where he kind of flips the script. I think it's all determined how the Rams play it. If the Rams load the box and the Niners are stymied, and then the Niners got to win those one-on-ones, and maybe Kyle needs to open up the playbook with the play calling and throw the ball a lot more around, which, lends itself to more mistakes with Jimmy. Or Trey. I mean, Trey's not perfect either, but my preference would be to come out and run the ball and run it hard. And let's not put all of it on Elijah Mitchell. Let's try to work Jeff Wilson Jr. in there a little bit.
Yes, a
Jermichael
power
Hasty.
runner.
Please. The kid is overworked and he gets hurt a lot. So yeah, you brought up a good point. Kyle tends to do that where you think what the game plan is going to be. You may very well be right. I just have a feeling Kyle's going to gauge it early, and if it works, he's going to keep doing it. But I wouldn't see surprise if Kyle flips the script and just starts tossing the ball around.
Yeah. He does that on occasion where it's like you expect something, and Sean McVay expects something, right? The Rams, as of the news today, are thinking they're going to attempt to run it down our throats. Jimmy's not 100%. They don't have Trent Williams. The right side of the line is far better at run blocking than pass blocking. So they're going to try and run it 40 plus times like they did against us November 15th. And so if the Rams defense comes out to sell out to stop that, then the weakness in that defense is to attack. It is to throw it over the top of that 8-man box, get it behind to the Yak brothers, who then run over the set of safeties and take it to the house on those plays, because the defense is sucked up attempting to play the run. Just a bit of news that I did now confirm on Twitter. It looks like Colton McKivitz is going to be the starter at left tackle as opposed to Jalen Moore. So the birthday boy is not apparently going to start at left tackle, and it will be Colton McKivitz. That's an interesting development from a guy who was borderline to be on this roster at this point to now be in at left tackle. I wonder if that's some unique matchup that Coach Shanahan believes it favors Colton McKivitz, or whether it will just be a short leash for him and they're going to go with some sort of a rotation at left tackle.
I'm not really happy with that decision, to be honest with you. You're right. This guy barely made the roster this past season, and now he's in the biggest game of the year on the left side instead of Jalen Moore, who's played reasonably well when he's played. I'm not the coach. I'm just saying that I don't really like the move, to be honest with you.
Nope, nor do I, nor do many of the 49er faithful. Mark has pivoted. Now that it's Colton McKivitz, he is saying, go Falcons. Time to root for the more likely scenario. I'm not going that negative at all, but I agree that it is an odd choice. And I like Luke Luna's suggestion here that potentially it's going to be a rotation. Saying at Silverado Kev, who put the news in the chat, shout out Silverado Kev. He did throw that in there. I confirmed it on Twitter. You got to be kidding me. I thought Moore for sure. I think they will split the responsibility. You have to hope. Moore is a good pass blocker. Potentially, that's where they see the strengths. They see one is a better run blocker, one is a better pass blocker. It just is an interesting decision given what has played out to this point. It strikes you as a bit odd going into this one. But let's flip the script, because if the 49ers offense does struggle, what is significant is the health for the 49ers defense. And you may have to rely on the defense to have a dominant performance if the offense in any way sputters, or if they have any turnovers in this game. You know, it could set up to where the defense has to step up and win this one. And so part of that will be getting after Matt Stafford. Just a few stats to throw out there before we talk about whether the Niners can get home today. Stafford's only been sacked 25 times on the season. Now, 4 of those did come from the 49ers in the November 15th matchup. But the important thing to note about Matt Stafford is while he hasn't been dragged down to the ground a whole lot of times, he's been pressured a lot. And in being pressured, he's thrown 5 interceptions in the last 2 games, which includes his 4th pick 6 of the season. 4 pick 6s, one of those coming by Jimmy Ward in that 31-10 victory in mid-November. Stafford is a statistical monster in that he's got 4,600 passing yards, which is second in the league, 38 touchdowns, second in the league, and 103 quarterback rating, which is third in the league. But it is those interceptions that the 49ers need to hang their hat on, and I think that pressure could force him into some bad throws.
Yeah, I think he leads the league in interceptions, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, like you said, he's really prolific. He puts up a lot of good stats for fantasy owners and stuff. But, like Jimmy Ward said, maybe he is who he is still, even though he's on the LA Rams. I'm not saying he's not talented enough to scorch us, but
definitely
the fact of the matter is most quarterbacks under pressure make mistakes. And he is definitely no different. And it's something that he does, like you said, quite frequently recently. So the Niners need to come out in this game and not wait till halftime. That pass rush has to get home early and often, because last week in the second half, they were disruptive as hell and just dominant. And I was like, wow, I haven't seen this kind of pass rush other than Bosa since 2019, where like other people are winning their one-on-one. So, guys like Armstead, DJ Jones,
DJ Jones,
Key,
the man, the myth, the legend.
The man, the myth, the barbecue sauce.
Yes.
And Arden Key, Samson Ebukam, all those guys. If you want a game that you need to step up and shine and earn your paycheck, this is that game, because he has a tendency to throw the interception under pressure. He is who he is. He's like you said, a fantastic player who has a lot of great stats, but he's known to kind of, play catch with the other team's defense. So yeah, get on him early, knock him down.
Got to get on him early. Got to get that supporting cast going. You talked about it. Nick Bosa is going to bring it today, but he has been stymied the last 2 weeks. And you would think that the Rams are going to copy what those offensive lines have been doing in bringing in the tight end and chipping Bosa, regardless of where he lines up, left or right side. It'll be interesting to me to see if that tight end chip or receiver or back who comes up to chip Bosa, if that continues to be successful, will DeMeco Ryans shift Bosa inside and rush him from the interior where those chips are impossible to put on an interior defensive lineman, right? And put him just up against a double team against a center and a guard in that instance. But it's the rest of the supporting cast that really does have to step up. If Bosa is getting double and triple teamed with, two defenders on him and a chip, then you've got to count on Arden Key continuing that resurgence. You have to count on the role players getting home with effort. Samson Ebukam, whether it is Jordan Willis, all of the guys that have over the past few weeks shown flashes have to come through today, because if they sit back and allow Matthew Stafford to pick apart this secondary, in particular being thin at that nickel cornerback spot, it could be a long day. And you hope that the 49ers play a complementary style of football. We talked about the importance of the run game. The importance of the run game isn't just for the offense in my book. It's for the defense as well. It's resting those pass rushers so that they can come in and contribute when they need to. Can't have them gassed at the end of the game.
I completely agree. Pass rush and running game are like best friends, because if the Niners can run the ball and take time off the clock, rest that pass rush, then they're always fresh, right?
Yes.
And being fresh, it takes its toll on the offensive line and their blocking. I think the Niners need to be multiple in their fronts. I don't think they could just sit back there and rush 4 all day. I think they need to maybe show blitz, even if they don't do it. Like you said, move Bosa inside if you have to. You can't just sit back and run, what do they call? Was it cover 3, cover 2 with the Niners run sometimes?
Yeah, oftentimes cover 2.
Right. You can't just sit. I mean, that's great and everything, but you got to get some pressure on the passer. And the best way to do that is you just be multiple in your fronts. Change it up, blitz from the slot, blitz from linebacker, zone blitz, mix guys, put guys inside that are usually playing outside like Bosa. Just move Bosa around, take him from the left side to the right side. Whatever it needs to be done needs to happen today.
Yeah. Let's get some stunts going a la Justin Smith and Aldon Smith back in the day. That would be the way to go. I mean, let's stunt with DJ Jones. Let's make sure that we rotate he and Bosa on a stunt on the inside. By the way, I just happened to see this, and it thrills me that whether I contributed to it or not, the barbecue sauce has sold out on the site. I hope I played some role in that. I do have 2 bottles still wrapped up in the bubble wrap, ready to ship out. I'm giving away after, I think probably this week, regardless of what happens, whether we are in the playoffs or whether we are breaking down the season. We need to give out some of that barbecue sauce to a few of the channel members or listeners, whatever it may be.
I'll take some.
Nice. Get you a little barbecue sauce. Send some your way.
Absolutely.
All right. So in talking about the 49ers getting out early, establishing the run, getting after Stafford, part of that comes into this next topic of starting quickly. A need for the 49ers to get ahead. Now, this to me is a two-headed monster. One, the 49ers need to get out front so that they can continue to run the ball, and that threat of running the ball is very real, right? When you're behind, can you still stick to the run? Yes, it's more challenging. The temptation is to swap over and begin attacking them through the air. And I think that's a recipe for disaster for the 49ers. But the second component to this is the random statistic that underneath Sean McVay, the Rams are 45-0 when leading at halftime. That is a wild stat that I pulled from one of our beat reporters on Twitter this morning. I should give credit, but I honestly didn't write down who I stole that from. But that statistic is out there that the Sean McVay-led Rams are 45-0 when leading at halftime. So the Niners need to start quick and get that lead.
Yeah, and I think the Niners starting quick helps their defense too. You know what I mean?
Yes.
They can really pin their ears back and be aggressive. I think, like we talked about early in the season, is when the Niners played their best ball this year is when they played complementary football, which means, the offense starting fast, the running game working, and the defense coming out, pass rush, comes alive. All those things just seem to work perfectly together when the Niners start quickly. The Niners get in a lot of trouble when they're not able to score points and have three and outs or a holding on, second down or something. And then they have to play catch up. This Niners team, to me personally, and this is not a knock on Jimmy or anybody, they're more of a front runner team. This team is at its best when they have the lead and they're able to pin their ears back on defense and be aggressive. They're not necessarily a team, because of the way their offense is constructed, to throw the ball all over the field and come back quickly. Kyle's offense works when they have the lead. It's just, that's the way it's built. So
yes, 100%. They're a much more confident team when they have the lead. And it doesn't mean that we won't have a heart attack game. I mean, we have plenty of instances where the 49ers have the lead and yet it feels very tenuous. And so we're all struggling, waiting to see what the end result will be. I have a feeling that that's the type of matchup we're in for today, especially with the news about Trent Williams. I think this one is going to be real close. I think both teams will be fighting tooth and nail to win this one. For the Rams, they're trying to secure the number one spot in the NFC West, right? They want to win the division and get that proper seeding that reflects it. And if they lose, then Arizona can overtake them with a win. And for the 49ers, it's obviously win or go home, barring an Atlanta win against the Saints. So it is going to be two teams absolutely trying to dominate one another. This is exactly what the NFL wanted when they put in the extra playoff team.
Yeah, the parity in the NFL is unbelievable at this point. I mean, you got your top dogs, you got your Packers, and you have your Kansas City Chiefs in the AFC. But other than that, everybody's pretty close. Nobody's really super dominant this year. It's everybody's beatable. Even the Bucks, they lost to the Saints 9-0. So, not that I would love to play Tom Brady. I mean, you got to be kidding me, right? But it's great. This is what the league wanted, and they got exactly what they wanted. Personally, I think the Niners could have saved themselves from this by playing better earlier in the year. But
yes, oh my God, some of these close losses coming back to bite us.
It is what it is. You the saying is, you make your bed, now you got to lie in it. Niners got to make this bed and do it on the road in a hopefully not as hostile environment. I don't know.
There was a lot of red and gold there. Just to touch on it, Shane AZ, 49ers Empire, asked the question, and I don't think I did hit it at the beginning of the broadcast, but I was going to be there. I was going to be in my game day attire at the stadium. He thought I was going to be there at the game. That was the plan. Had the flight, was booking the tickets. And then the best friend of mine who I was going to stay with, who I was going to go to the game with, had a COVID scare within the family and had to deal with the kids. And so totally understandable, could not make it. And, I wanted to honor that first trip to SoFi Stadium with my best friend. I want to have that memory. And so I chose not to go solo on this one. But regardless of where the Niners end up next week, I am in for that. The Niners are in the playoffs. Rob Schuh is going to be there. Raphael coming in. This one, I think, is what you were talking about, Aaron. It's unfortunate we're in this situation. 1-4 in the division, including 2 very painful losses to Seattle. Questionable personnel decisions in the offseason. We will have a lot to look back on if this game doesn't go the 49ers way, if they end up out of the playoffs. But I'm not prepared to talk about that yet, because the Niners can absolutely win this game today and march into the playoffs.
Yeah, we were talking about topics off screen, and he asked me if I wanted one, and I tried to go the negative route, and Rob wasn't having it. He's like, let's kind of rethink how we're going to phrase this so it's not so gloom and doom. So I'm like, okay, so guys, I already went there. Rob shut it down, so don't even try.
Yeah, Rob is keeping it positive because that's what Rob needs today. For Rob's mental health,
yes,
Rob needs positive.
Well.
That is exactly right. Antonio Seabrook coming in with the super chat. I think the offense can be high-powered given its receiving weapons. We just need a quarterback that can orchestrate it. And I do think that is why Kyle Shanahan is going with Jimmy Garoppolo, because he believes him to be the better orchestrator of the complete offense, of the entire playbook. Having seen significantly more from defenses around the league, having had considerably more snaps under center, he can set up the 49ers offense to be successful pre-snap, and he can execute all of the play calls post-snap. Now, does he have the arm talent that Trey Lance has? Does he have the mobility? No, but I think for Kyle Shanahan, a guy who believes he has all the answers to the test, in particular when he's going up against Sean McVay, it's more important for him to be able to point out the point of attack to the quarterback and have faith that the quarterback can go execute that.
Yeah, that's my biggest thing with the Niners is you look at their receiving options and their running backs and all that stuff, and they're pretty loaded offensively, like talent-wise. It's just, and yes, Jimmy gives you the best chance to win a lot of times just because of experience, especially a game like this. But you can see why the Niners did what they did and eventually, making the moves to get Trey is they have this window right now where they're going to have all these really dynamic offensive pieces. And eventually they would like to have a quarterback that can really, really take advantage of them in all quadrants of the field, not just on, jet sweeps and crossing patterns, but like everywhere. So yeah, I see that. I do see the explosive players on this offense. In a what do they call it? In a bubble today.
Yes.
You want Jimmy to be the guy just because of experience, but in the long run, that's the exciting part with Trey, is we're going to get to see all these weapons hopefully be unlocked, and this be an offense that the league's going to have a hard time, putting the wraps on.
Yes, I am with you. Bradley Frey with the super chat. I can't emotionally handle a loss today. Go Niners. Bradley, you and me both. I am really hoping that the 49ers pull this one out just for my own personal sanity here. Jonathan Ryers coming in. Jimmy with no O-line will be scared to get hit. I don't know if I would ever say that about Jimmy Garoppolo. I don't know that I would list him as a scared individual. I think when you make it to the elite levels of the NFL, you have to be credited for your toughness in getting there. So I'm not buying that. I'm not buying that Jimmy is scared. I think he's coming out with no fear, nothing to lose.
Yeah, I wouldn't necessarily scared be the word. He does play jittery sometimes.
Yes.
Where he likes to, is at the top of his drop back, instead of getting rid of the ball, he tends to hold it and give up, end up walking into sacks, so to speak. And he can get a little bit heavy footed in the pocket, like Grant Cohn likes to say, he kind of plants himself. That's one of my biggest frustrations when I watch Jimmy is he'll make these fantastic throws, these zippy throws over the middle. And you're like, wow, what an accurate, and then gets lazy with his fundamentals or something and makes a mistake. I wouldn't say scared, but maybe a little bit happy feet.
Yes. Happy feet is a good way to describe that. It really is. Sal Robles coming in at Rob. I'm still confident with our team. 49ers will pull through. Love the optimism.
Yeah.
I do believe you'll see a 2-quarterback system and really confuse the Rams defense with our run game today. Faithful to the Bay. Sal, one of our sneakerheads here on the channel. I would be okay with the 2-quarterback system a little bit. If it doesn't work early, I think you have to pull the cord on it. To your point, Aaron, I know you'd rather see one is in there, allow them to have the entirety of the game to get into that rhythm.
Yeah, I don't like this back and forth thing. I just think it kills the rhythm of the offense. Personally, that's just my personal observation, but it just seemed to early in the year sometimes. Like, for instance, you bring Trey in and Trey takes a sack, or they try to do some, overthought run play that Kyle likes to do sometimes, where he goes, instead of just running a normal play, he runs like this extravagant run play with the kid, and then he gets tackled for a loss, and it just like kills momentum on the drive. If you're moving the ball with Jimmy and the ball's coming out quickly and the running game is hitting it, man, just stay with one guy. But
yes, if one is working, no need to get too cute, I think is the answer there. All right, let's get into one of our last topics here. We're running out of time. Got 10 minutes till kickoff, and I know we don't want to miss a second of this one, so we are definitely going to cut the broadcast when we need to. But why I believe, or what case we can make for the reset button being better if you're going from Jimmy as the starter to Trey coming in. So for me, this is, you may have to pull the trigger on a restart, on a reset. You may get into this one thinking Jimmy's going to attack them over the middle. He is going to provide the best orchestration of this offense. And then you start the game and perhaps the thumb ligament does not cooperate and you have to go over to Trey. To me, that energy that you will see within the 49er fan base that's in the crowd and the sideline, the lift that you would see in that incident where you have to go to the more explosive of the two options in a worst case scenario, I think would be a bigger lift than if you did the opposite. If you started with Trey and things went badly and then you had to put in a less than 100% Jimmy, I don't know that you would get any type of a lift. I think you would see people sort of hanging their heads in the stands. You would see resigning to the fact that, well, shit, we gave it our best. We put in the more explosive of the two. He wasn't prepared for the moment. And now we're going back to a less than 100% Jimmy. I don't see the same spark. And to me, momentum and spark and energy, those things are real. And so I do think that reset button could come into play if the 49ers get in trouble with Jimmy to start.
Yeah, I mean, you could see it last week when they had Kittle mic'd up, how excited he was for the kid. He definitely brings an element of just unpredictability and playmaking with his feet and his elite arm. And that's not something the Rams are used to. They're used to Jimmy getting to the top of his drop most of the time and either throwing a check down or a crossing pattern or something, or a slant. Whereas with the kid, he can make that off scheduled scramble for a first down or scramble out of the pocket, elongate a play. And it puts stress on a defense when you have to worry about a quarterback that can move. I mean, look at us with all the mobility, with all the quarterbacks we play within our division. Yeah. How stressed do we get watching that? Like, damn it, we had him. And he breaks out, and then it's a 40-yard play to DK Metcalf, who's wide open because he's been running around for 10 seconds. So that's the part that I say you're right on, is like, you bring him in, you bring in something that is not typical from a backup quarterback. Whereas if you bring Jimmy in, he's pretty much just like, we know what he's going to do. So hopefully Jimmy doesn't struggle in this game. I really want him to have a strong game. I'm trying to be positive, man. It's tough.
Yes, me too. I think the Niners can use that positive energy. Jonathan Ryers coming in here with McKivitz starting at left tackle. Jimmy has more excuses for a bad game, and I don't trust Shan with high-pressure games, play calling, or time management. I mean, I think that's a reasonably fair criticism, saying that Shanahan has struggled with high-pressure games, play calling, play calling. I don't know if I can get behind that. Time management and high-pressure games, I would agree, and I would certainly criticize Coach Shanahan for that. I certainly think having McKivitz starting at left tackle is a factor. I don't think anybody's going to have any excuses for this game. I think it is win or go home, zero excuses. You just got to ball out. Nobody's going to care that Trent Williams was out when the 49ers, if the 49ers were to lose and miss the playoffs, no one's going to sympathize with that. It is just going to be a conversation about the season as a whole.
Yeah, this is put up or shut up time. You can overanalyze it to death, but it just comes down to either the Niners make enough plays today to get themselves into the dance, or they're going to be sitting home and watching everybody else.
Yes. Tommy Huxley, frustrated. McKivitz, not great. Why is he starting?
Yeah.
It's a great question. And I think it feeds into, the greater narrative that we'll close out on in these last 4 minutes of the broadcast. Just looking at the 2021 season up to this moment, it will be defined by this game. It will be defined by the result of this game. Going into the playoffs, regardless of what happens in the playoffs, would be a statement from a 49ers team that got out to that 3-5 start. The ability to turn that around, regardless of injuries going against the 49ers yet another season, regardless of the fact that you didn't get Jimmy Garoppolo stepping up with increased quality quarterback play. You had much more of the same inconsistency that you had seen throughout his career here with the San Francisco 49ers. So I do think that there will be a fair amount of criticism if things go poorly. But conversely, there will be a lot to celebrate if the 49ers do win today and do march into the playoffs. Again, regardless of what happens once they get there.
I'll say this and kind of be my final thought. There's been like 2 49er teams this year. And I think this game will be a microcosm of which team we are really. There's a team that got streaky and was dominant on defense and ran the ball extremely well, and Jimmy looked efficient. And then there's the team that, turned over the ball on special teams, tons of penalties, a lot of self-inflicted wounds, and we lost games we should have won, like the Green Bay game or the Seattle game, things like that. So this game is going to be a microcosm of the team who we really were this season. So hopefully we're the good team that won, had the streak, and Jimmy played well and the running game was good and the pass rush was good. That's hopefully the team that the microcosm that we're going to see. That I feel like we've been 2 teams all year. So
yes,
hopefully we're on the positive side. If it doesn't happen, and I'm just going to be totally honest, the proof is why. We've seen enough of this team this year to know why, if things go sour, why they went sour. So it shouldn't be a surprise either way.
No, it shouldn't. And that's a very well stated, well articulated summary of this season. The tale of 2 teams. The team that comes out, plays efficiently, plays complementary football, and wears out the opponent. I mean, physically wearing out opponents, dominating games physically in that regard, coming out with some convincing wins, even at times where the score would have indicated it was closer than that, where the 49ers rack up considerable yards. But then you have the games where it should have been close. It should have been a 49ers victory. They did accrue more yards than their opponent, sometimes by a wide margin, like the first Seahawks game. But those penalties, those turnovers, those mistakes cost them those games. And those losses, based on those mistakes by that Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde side of the 49ers, put us in a position where we have a must-win playoff game to get into the playoffs. And that's where we are. The 49ers coming up against the Los Angeles Rams in less than 2 minutes' time for a game that decides the 49ers' ability to get into the playoffs. I don't have an official score prediction on this one. I think it's going to be really, really close. I'm looking at a 1-score difference in this one. I think it's most likely going to be a game that's decided by 3 or 4 points at the end bell. And the hope is the 49ers play that mistake-free football and they are able to win this one. And part of that is the SoFi Stadium crowd being full of 49er faithful. That is what I'm looking for. I can't wait to see that in the broadcast. I've been part of that before, and that's a special feeling to take over an opponent's stadium like that. Aaron, it's almost kickoff. Let's go watch some Niners football. Thank you for joining me today. Always a pleasure to have you on here, sir.
No problem. Thanks for inviting me.
And to the rest of the faithful, as we go out to get into the playoffs, cheers. Here's to you, faithful.